We have a responsibility to pass this stuff on. If I know how to do something and you don't, I have a responsibility to teach you. As a strength coach or as in the military, like if you know how to run the saw really well, guess what? You're teaching everybody how to use the saw. The highlight of my day every day is watching somebody do something that they didn't think they could do. Watching an athlete lift the weight that they didn't think they could lift, watching them hit a vertical jump that they'd never hit before. That is like the best feeling ever as a coach.
You went from just being like, hey, I'm a hobbyist, I'm doing this on myself as my own kind of like lab rat, and you eventually evolved into training other people and getting into strength conditioning as a professional. It's like, what talk to me about the progression.
Well, I think that just came from the military. A few different factors in the military. One, like I said, I always took every opportunity that was put in front of me, and then usually I was pretty successful at those opportunities. So tried to go to as many schools as I could, was always good on the PT test. And as in the military, back in the day, anyways, running fast was highly valued, or running fast over the course of 2 miles was highly valued. So I don't want to say that's running fast, but running fast for 2 miles was a valuable skill. And I was good at all those things. And so people would come and ask me, how do I get ready for this PT test? How do I get ready for, XYZ school? For a while, this was when I was on active duty. My first sergeant put me in charge of like the remedial PT program, which if any of those people are listening or watching, I am so sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. I didn't know what I was doing.
I had the same role, and I was like, I am mortified by what I had these people doing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so people would ask me, how to do whatever, and I would just tell them either what I did or what I thought would work. Again, like I'm sure it was awful, not based on anything, just kind of based on assumptions that I had made or things that I had tried for myself that worked. But eventually, like I took it this is my responsibility to actually learn about these things.
Yeah.
And because I knew it was from running programs like that, the dog crap and whatever, I knew it was something that could be learned about. I learned that there was, about the programming principles and things like that. And that I got to figure this out, because people, as a person in this community that has had some success, people are going to ask me. And if I tell them, I can either not tell them anything, which I'm not going to do because that's just the wrong answer. I could tell them the wrong thing, again, wrong answer, or I could learn about it and tell them the right thing. And one thing, I was having this conversation earlier today with another coach who's also in the military, that we have a responsibility to pass this stuff on. Like if I know how to do something and you don't, I have a responsibility to teach you. At least as a strength coach or as in the military, like if you know how to run the saw really well, guess what? You're teaching everybody how to use the saw. If you just learned how to use the new radio, even though you just learned how to use it today, you got to teach everybody else how to use it. And so I just had that mentality, and I still have that mentality of like, even though I just learned how to swing a golf club, if we go golfing together, I'm going to show you the two things that I know about swinging a golf club. So it just became just by way of position and by way of who I was and what I felt I had a obligation to do. Just kind of evolved from that.
Yeah. So very similar experience, same as me. But I remembered really early on, like just really like loving training other people. Like I got my first personal trainer certificate like in 98 or something like that. It was the ACE one, and the Army paid for it, and
Nice.
same deal, but it was because I knew like, hey, this is like, I knew real early, like I thought maybe I wasn't going to do it as a career, but I was at least going to do it as a hobby. Like I loved helping people develop capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that or did you just kind of, you got good at it, so you kind of just kept it going?
It's something that I enjoy doing. I enjoy I enjoy the relationships that you build with that as the background. I love every day. The highlight of my day every day is watching somebody do something that they didn't think they could do. right? Watching an athlete lift the weight that they didn't think they could lift, watching them, hit a vertical jump that they'd never hit before. That is like the best feeling ever as a coach. So if I get to do that every day, like that's really what keeps me coming in every day is that. And then, the success that people go on to just, in the military, I loved when guys would get out and they would go get good jobs or they would go make an impact in their community or go on to be successful outside of the military. And I get the same thing working with student athletes, all these kids sooner or later, they're going to stop playing sports. Sooner or later, they're going to graduate college and then they're going to go make an impact in their community. And I love having a small little role to play in that. And I know that one of these days, one of these kids is going to be telling a story that starts with back in college, my strength coach used to.
Yeah.
And it could either be a good story or a bad story. And I want it to be a good story.
Yeah, I mean, I also like working with young people is like an area that I really enjoy. Like even like high school athletes have been is an area that I've kind of like gravitated towards. Did you end up there because that's kind of where if you want to be a strength conditioning coach, that's kind of like the show, or did you like really want to be in that
I
arena?
originally wanted to work with military because I wanted to give
Yeah,
back to the military. What I
yeah,
found very quickly with working with the military, and this is before H2F was a thing, what I found quickly working with the military was very frustrating to work with them because it's hard to get a typical military guy, or at least like a guy that's in the infantry, to lock in and follow a program A to Z. Because there's a lot of, you got to run assessments. You need to have kind of like a if you actually want to periodize a program properly, just say run like a year long periodized program for somebody. Yeah, it takes a lot of patience and it takes commitment, and it's hard to get that from, or I found it hard to get that from that population, just because they have a lot of other things pulling them in different directions, and so I was frustrated with that, just working with them kind of privately. I then thought I wanted to maybe work with high school kids. I never worked in a high school, but the interactions that I've had with them on the private side, like small group is fine. I can kind of tell just from how I've gotten to know them in small groups that I would not want to work with a big group.
yeah,
It's just finding the right chemistry balance, I think, and I can tell that my chemistry and their chemistry it wouldn't work.
yeah,
And but the collegiate athletes I really really enjoy because again it's like kind of the same as the military demographic. They're all lifting weights for them is like it's something that for them it's mostly something that they have to do, not something that they necessarily want to do. But I can make it enjoyable for them. I can make it like a part of their day that they get something out of. Um, and they can accomplish something, And so, yeah, I just feel like this is the best place for me to make an impact.
yeah. I want to dive into the college scene, but I want to go back to the tactical athlete thing for a second.
Sure.
Um, because I I think the challenges of training tactical athletes is also what I enjoy also because and I know you're probably gonna well I don't know if you're gonna agree with this. For me, my experience has also been the what a tactical athlete is a very different kind of athlete. Like they really have to be good at everything. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they kind of have to be strong. They have to have great endurance. They have to be athletic. They've got to be able to sprint. They've got to be able to carry a body. I mean, there's just a lot of shit that they've got to be able to do, which is exciting to me. Like how it's the Rubik's cube of how do you actually like if you know strength conditioning, if you know periodization, like how do you actually create cycles that like develop someone to be completely well-rounded. And I'm kind of just I want to throw that topic out there. Like what do you think it takes to like create the ultimate?
I think that it takes a very, very wide base of just general strength and conditioning, and not overly specializing in any one particular area, and just making that base as wide as you can. Having some weighted movements, having some body weight movements, power movements, sprinting. You got to have some distance running. You got to have some loaded carries. Got to have some loaded walking. With a rucksack on. That's all well and good, and you got to build that real wide. And really, like if I was just training a general population person, I would say we got to do all of these things. My frustration with the military comes where I don't want to bash the military guys, but like becomes a thing of where they kind of get ADD and they're like, I know I really want to like max out on this lift. I want to go to, hit a heavy back squat, or I want to, I was training for sapper school, but now I want to go run an ultra marathon. Like, well,
Yeah.
and these are real conversations that I've had.
Yeah.
And so that's very frustrating to me. And it's hard to go from your big GPP base to specializing in something over here, and then now you got to shift it all the way over here to that. Having that big wide base makes it easy to go. Okay, we've been training for a year. We've been squatting, benching, deadlifting, power cleaning, throwing stuff, walking with stuff. Uh, okay, now you've got this event coming up. Let's specialize in the things that are going to be tested in that event for the next 6 weeks. And that's a pretty easy transition to make. But going from starting to train over here to shift into something over here, or like, hey, we've been working on this base, but we're going to the NTC for a month. Base is coming
Yeah.
way back down, right? And then you got to start all the way back over. Like you can't start building the base of the pyramid, go to NTC for a month, and then pick back up here, right? Like you got to start all the way back at the bottom. And I find that that's a hard group to communicate that message to.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a big part of it is their kind of receptiveness to, why there's a lot of injuries in the military, non-combat related injuries, is because of that mindset, right? Like they're always getting pulled out of the physical readiness fight, but they don't ever want to take a step back to to right size their training. They want to just keep somehow progressing without actually doing the work,
Yeah,
and it's a challenge.
yeah, and it's hard to get them to lift weight that's light, and or like it feels light. They want to be sore, they want to be
Yeah.
gassed, they want the burn, and that's not necessarily productive all the time. When if you know that the rest period is going to be limited, then you don't want to be beating the crap out of somebody. You could, because like, hey, this guy's going to the field. I can't wail on him because he's not going to be able to recover from it. Like I got to just give him just enough to stimulate a little bit of growth, and then let him grow from it, and then come back and stimulate a little bit more. But I don't know, they're kind of masochistic.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. That was always my challenge, was like, more is better, trying to reel everybody in, and I found my little ways to do that without like really like crushing their central nervous system, or I feel like I found. So here was the other problem I had. When I think the best programming I ever put together for tactical athletes, where I really feel like like this is my best work. This is art that I put out there. They
If you
just
go look
didn't
at it
like
now,
it.
you're gonna hate it though.
Probably. Actually, I did look it up not that long ago, and I still looked at it and be like, man, this is pretty solid. Like, I feel like this would create a pretty well-rounded athlete.
That's
They
good.
just hated it.
Yeah,
They just didn't enjoy it. And that was the other part. You can't, it's hard to get someone to buy into a really long process when they just don't enjoy it, you
yeah.
know?
It's long. It's with the baseball team here, when we came back off a summer break, we spent 6 weeks of just doing nothing but real basic light squats, tempo squats. Everything kind of like timed on a whistle, like just kind of trying to rebuild the capacity to actually be able to train and be able to put their body through the stress of baseball practice and running and lifting and all this stuff. Like, you got 60 guys just coming in. You don't know what they've been doing all summer long. Like, you gotta put them in the crock pot and take it real slow.
Yeah.
And people don't have the patience for that.
Yeah. I mean, in college, though, I think the benefit that you have, and you would think this would be true in the military, but it's not, is like they don't actually have to do your program. I mean, there's lots of stuff you can do in the military and kind of still meet the standard, right?
Right.
And very rarely is somebody saying you have to do this.
Right.
But I think I mean, maybe I've never been a collegiate strength conditioning coach. So do they have to, I mean, they have to show up and just do your
Oh
program,
yeah.
right? Like they don't have a
Yeah.
choice.
No. Yeah. They have to do everything what I put out for them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's fast forward to that because this is like really because I've never done it. I've never been a collegiate strength conditioning coach. You know, I read it in a book. I've been to some seminars and stuff like that, but like I'm not experienced in it. So I really want to know like okay, what's the difference? Like what do you nerd out on? Like what's your process? Like I just like really want to dive into all that.
I have basically for baseball and softball, it's pretty cut and dry because they show up in the fall and they don't have their actual season until February. So I can really like run like a pretty solid like block periodization type program for them where they come in the end of August and we'd go through just return to training, um, then go through a work capacity phase, go through an accumulation phase, intensification phase, and then a max power phase, like right, pretty much right as they're going into season, like they should be kind of peaking. And then I want to be able to just keep them getting just during season, just keep them getting like incrementally stronger all through the season so that they kind of hit a second strength, good strength peak for postseason. So with baseball and softball, it's relatively easy to kind of plan that out. Um, as far as like sessions and things like that go, um, I'm always, I look at, you look at the demands of the sport, you look at the athletes, and you also have to look at just individually where they are, where are they showing up? Like, the baseball team showed up pretty good this year. Some of the other teams were a little bit behind. You could tell they didn't train over the summer.
Yeah.
So got to be real careful with them because I can't thrash a team because they should have been working out over the summer, right? Like I've got to meet them where they are. I've got to make them better, um, and so that sometimes is a slow process.
How much of a, you know, as a strength conditioning coach, you're not like their sport coach. How much of a role do you play in even their you know their mindset or like how much do you get to kind of like did they just basically show up to the training room do their thing and head out or like how much exposure and like influence do you get with them?
I do my best to influence their mindset. Just from the way we train, the way that I push them through a session, talking to them before the session, talking to them as a group after the session. I try to, I do my best to influence them positively and get them wanting to be, working for the team. And I think really with there's really all the athletes here are fantastic. They're all pretty locked in when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I'm reinforcing what they already are, but yeah, I try to give them my little pep talks at the end of the session.
Yeah, that's kind of like where I would think. I think that would be some of the fun part for me. I'm like imagining in my head like what I think the role is like, having never done it. But I think that would be kind of the fun part. Like for example, you said what keyed me in on that is like, hey, you guys came back from summer, like I could tell you didn't do your homework over the summer. Like, do I have like what's my level of like mentorship there? Like, what's my level of leadership there?
I rip into them about it because they're putting the team at risk. They're putting their health at risk.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, what they do, I get them for 3 months, and then we're about to go on break. They're going to be out of the weight room or at least out of my supervision for 7 weeks, and then come back and we have 3 weeks, and then we go into season.
right.
So that 7 weeks is going to make or break the season. And so, I've all fall long. I was really harping on him, like, hey, when we're putting in this work now, but don't piss it up a rope when we get into Christmas break. You've got to keep working. You've got to keep working. And for my part, what I did is, the program that I wrote them was very, very simple. In in my opinion, it's a fun program to run. I don't know if they're going to think it's fun, but you
Yeah.
know, they should be able to go and knock out each session in 30 to 45 minutes. It's super basic, hit a couple cleans, hit a couple squats, some military press, some basic accessories, and that's it. And then
Yeah.
a little run program that's relatively simple. So if they're doing that program, they should show back up, and we shouldn't have any issues. But if they're not doing it, like I said, it's gonna really put the season at risk. And so I've been harping on them on that for a long time, and hopefully the message got through. We'll see.